Okay, everybody, we are back again, and I'm still not done filming yet because I have not made it through this entire liter of water. And I know that seems kind of silly to make that goal, but I'm not gonna drink it otherwise. If I don't make a goal, I have to motivate myself. Okay, I'm not a big water drinker. I'm just not, never have been, and it's mostly because my body can't hold on the sodium, and that's why there's this cloudy because I have a bunch of sodium in there, and trying to get more hydrated and healthy and poof for the solstice. Anyways, I also am going sans makeup this week because I want to make sure that my skin has the room to breathe, so to speak. I messed it up saying that, but you know what I mean. And I just got done with a whole bunch of different TikTok reacts. I ran out of TikToks to react to, still haven't finished my water, so now we're going to go right back to our podcast reacts, and that is reacting to the Fat Fatties. Today we're talking about shame spirals, right? And the reason why I was like drawn to this episode, I'll take a little break from the medical side of things, but drawn to the whole shame spiral thing is because I recently talked about, I think it was my previous video, a previous TikTok react that I put out, I guess would be yesterday. And it was basically on how a lot of people had this perception that society is treating them differently because of their weight, when in reality, you don't understand the energy that you're putting out in the world, and that energy is being given right back to you. So, for example, I'm a very warm and open person, I would say. Yes, I would. I'm very extroverted. I get along with everybody. Most people, if you don't get along with me, there's probably something wrong with you. Okay. I'm taking that stance because I get along with like 99% of people. Okay. And yeah, 1 out of 100, there's something wrong with you. And the example I used in the previous video was how even my nail techs get my nails done. They made me a birthday cake on my birthday because I make friends with basically everybody. It's who I am. And so I've never really had this experience of being at a larger size and feeling discriminated against or being made to feel smaller or whatever shame thing that they're talking about due to my weight, right? I never felt that. It's definitely other reasons, but not because of my weight or my body size. Because you know what? Even if somebody's smaller than you, they probably have insecurities about their body too, and they're not looking to, most of the time, project it onto you. Some, for sure. And I would say the some would be these people that we're talking about right now. So anyways, yeah, we're gonna jump into it. We're gonna learn about the shame spiral, see how far we can get into it. I might just film like one part today. I don't know. We have to make it through. We have to finish this freaking bottle of water. Hopefully it's only just one. I'll just film the rest later. But yeah, guys, let's jump right into it. Okay, let's present share screen. Okay, I've learned their names now. I finally got a hang of it. This one is Rebecca on the left. In the middle, it's Alyssa. And on the right is Allie. And we all have our favorites, or the ones that most enrage us with their opinions. And we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt, as always, right? Sometimes I agree with them. Sometimes I don't. Okay, I got to be honest. There's sometimes I agree with them and what they say. Sometimes I don't. We're going to see how much I agree with them today. Okay, I haven't watched this yet. Okay, I might go through this whole episode and be like, geez, wow, I never thought that before. That's absolutely right. It could happen. Probably won't, but it could happen. Let's get into it.
Hey everyone, you are with the Fab Fatties. My name is Alyssa.
I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Allie.
Okay, shame. I want to talk about shame. This came up a little bit last week when we went to the hockey game. Mm-hmm. And I've been saying that I've been like in a little bit of a shame spiral. And I kind of got my rocked a little bit in therapy this week.
Okay.
Around it. Okay. So this is the part where I don't want to put on the podcast.
Hey everyone, Alyssa here with a quick little voice note before we jump into the episode. Each week, the girls and I try really hard to show up authentic and vulnerable and talk with our audience about what is happening in our day-to-day lives, what work we're doing, what we're struggling with. And that is really difficult. And I showed up to this episode needing to talk to my friends, and I spilt my guts out. Some of it is not going to be aired. It is going to stay private as I'm still actively working through it in my life and I'm not ready to share. So there is some context missing from this episode. However, because Rebecca is an editing guru, she really tried to leave in some authentic moments that I still think are really vulnerable and are beneficial to listen and engage to. I just wanted to give a little heads up that I think during the beginning, you're going to feel like you're missing some context, and that's because you are. And I just appreciate everyone's support while I am still actively doing this work and processing. I hope you enjoy what we do share and how authentic and vulnerable this conversation is amongst friends. Thanks.
Okay, so I've said in the past, I think the previous podcast react I did, that it was very annoying that sometimes they would just tell like half a story and try to make a grand point with it. But because we didn't have all the context, it made it very easy to poke holes in. And I'd also accuse them like, well, you don't want to tell us the whole story because then we probably could still poke holes in it. And now you have like a plausible deniability to not tell us the whole story. I do appreciate her saying that she's like outright not going to give us the context of whatever this thing is. And she has the right to that privacy, etc. It's a little confusing to me though, that you can't talk to your friends, or maybe you can like talk to your friends about this thing off the internet. If you can't share it, you want to talk about it, but you don't want to talk about it. That's a little confusing to me. Like maybe it'll make more sense when we get into it. I appreciate her saying that it's going to be confusing, but it's just another one of those things where they want to quote show up authentically. They want to show up in a certain way. They want to sit amongst friends on the internet, but they don't want any pushback about it. Like your internet's not a safe space. Like you quote built this table, you built your safe space, but the internet's not a safe space. And so I really do wonder, what is the point of bringing up this story if you can't share it? And I'm not trying to force you to share it. I just think maybe you should have picked a different topic to talk about and should have kept this offline from the beginning. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
And I was like, damn, I really did that. I really did that.
Ooh, I know this is not for the episode.
I know.
I just think, again, this is where sometimes you surprise me.
Yeah.
Because you took something that was happening and you laid all the blame at your feet versus giving yourself grace.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do think there's grace to be had here. But there are consequences to our actions. But for me, there was so much shame.
Yeah.
There was so much worry of being a burden that I didn't want to put it on anyone else. You know, I wanted to hold it, right? But I want this to be about shame and how much of a driving force shame is.
Yeah.
Because I allow external forces to determine my worth and my happiness.
I'm just looking at Allie's face here. Whatever Alyssa said really rocked Allie's world in a negative way. Like she is like stunned by whatever story she just heard. Rebecca's as composed as ever. Rebecca's like pretty, calm. I mean, I feel bad for her. Whatever it is, it sounds like it's really bad. And I don't want to like make fun of her for that at all. I am interested to see how they're going to tie it to being fat though.
And that is what was so apparent to me this week.
Yeah.
Is wow, I give all of my power away. I give all of my power away. I don't have any of it. I don't know if I've actually ever have. And I was having so much fun and I disappeared.
Something made you feel bad about
it. I disappeared. We're all good and bad, and we all
show up sometimes in great ways and we all show up sometimes in really shitty ways.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to say.
Please.
I don't want to dismiss it. It is very frightening and it might make us excuse more behaviors, except, listen, like that's the hard part. And you're allowed to fill it out and navigate that.
Yeah.
As you need, but also not seeing you as a bad person isn't enough.
No. The one thing I learned from that situation is I can double down. I can show all the facts and figures. I can talk my way through it.
So there's a couple things I'm angry about.
Yeah.
I understand losing.
You don't need to say more. I felt it.
There is a gray area, right? It's not good. It's not bad. There's a gray area. I know. We're gonna sit on a pillow, but there's already so much work that we have to do in the work that we're doing to keep reminding ourselves that there's a gray area, because like our literal brains, our neural pathways, right, have been conditioned since we were small children. There's something on my nose. To behave a certain way, to punish our bodies, to punish ourselves mentally for looking different, being different, feeling different, whatever.
At what point in time have y'all ever inserted yourselves into my life and acted like I need to make a decision about what I'm doing in my life?
No.
Y'all have never treated me like I'm not in charge of my life.
I did. I may have.
Well, you told me you didn't like it.
That's so kind of her. You told me you didn't like it. Yeah, that's exactly what I said.
You told me to leave his ass.
I told you to dump his ass.
But I didn't think like you thought less of me if I didn't.
Because I will tell you the one thing that happened this week, and we're going to make it a positive. I've been so locked in. On what? On the work.
3 meals a day.
eating my meals,
Yeah.
eating a variety of meals,
Eating some fucking
moving my
snacks.
body, eating snacks. I know this might sound diet culture, but
I just want to pause it there for a second. So there's no good place to pause when you don't know what's going on. But it seems like to me, Allie got triggered by something. I'm sure what being triggered has something to do with a trauma in her past, whether it has to do with her body size or eating or something else that is adjacent to that. I think it sounds like she went off on someone or got really triggered by it. And now they're talking about the shame she feels about her reaction. That is basically what I gathered from that. You guys let me know what you think it's about. But I think it's interesting that they immediately then segued into we've been conditioned to think these ways about our bodies. And in some way, I can see that side of things of where there's definitely a reinforcement of what health looks like. And if you don't meet that standard of health, you can feel essentially like a failure, right? Whether or not you should feel that shame and should feel that way is probably the conversation they're about to have. They're going to have a completely different take on it than I do. That's why I always take the stance that it may not be your fault that you gained weight, but it's your personal responsibility to find a way to be healthy and lose the weight. And it might take you a really long time. It took me a very long time. It took me a very, very long time, more than 20 years to figure it out. And I will point to things like our really bad health industry and our really bad medical system and bad doctors and our poisoned food supply that all contribute to these different things. And especially if you're a kid and you're overweight, I do not think it's your fault. If you are under the care of somebody else, it is not your fault that you're overweight. But it doesn't stop us from feeling insecure and bad at ourselves at the same time. Where I draw the line is this whole thing about where it's society's problem that's making you feel this way. And that's because if you have to think about the difference between shame and guilt, because I learned this when I was studying Japanese and I was going to live in Japan, and I was told, the United States is a guilt culture and Japan is a shame culture. And I think we sometimes use shame and guilt interchangeably when they're actually quite different, because guilt is internal and shame is external. And you can say, oh, I feel shame. But in order to feel shame, it has to come from an external force. So basically, either you're perceiving people are thinking this way about you, and so you feel bad about yourself, or people are actively telling you so. And so that's kind of what shame is. So shame is society keeping you in line. And guilt is you feeling bad over something that you did. It's an internal reaction and it's self-reinforced. Somebody can, quote, make you feel guilty, but they make you feel guilty through shaming you.
But I promise this is like a huge thing for me. I told you guys about salad day at Renford, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, when I got into I grew up on the whole staff because they were making me eat a salad. Do you know what I had for lunch? I had myself Caesar salad.
And you love
because
you wanted to.
I wanted to. Because I wanted to.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. They had salad day. So Renfrew, I think that's a behavior clinic, I'm pretty sure. And the one that she went to for her behaviors that she is saying it were due to over reducing, when we know it's a cycle of reducing and overindulging. But imagine being that triggered by a salad. And it's like, I don't typically eat salads because salad dressing has a lot of seed oils in it. And that's a lot of extra calories and it causes inflammation. My face just blows up. I love salad. That's the thing. I love salad. And leafy greens also cause inflammation. And so once again, it's the things that I really, really want, but I avoid. I will typically only have a salad if I go to a restaurant and it's like a really good looking like goat cheese salad or something like that with goat cheese and like pears or something. And it has like a really like good balsamic dressing. Like I'll definitely go for those, but I'm not going to make it at home as much as I would like to. I'm like one of the people who actually like salad and I can't have it. It's definitely an indulgence thing for me. But yeah, that's so interesting that she's like, salad day, and I threw up because of salad. I was like, ugh. I think that just goes to show where their heads are at when it comes to these things.
Not because I thought I needed to eat. No, I said, you know what sounds good right now? Caesar salad.
I wanted the microphone for that bottle like noise.
I got these. Oh, these are really good. They're like chicken jalapeno jerky sticks.
Oh.
They're expensive. 10 out of 10. I got the ghoul in those things. So not only did I have the salad, I had 2 jerky sticks and 2 cheese sticks. I had a Diet Coke.
Yes.
And I had a bag of Chex Mix. And I said, that is a lunch.
Yes.
So I'm so locked in right now. I literally was having a conversation with Billy and I said, Billy, I want to be so strong. I want to be so strong because there's one thing Vince taught me. It's I will see all of you motherfuckers finish line. I will see all of you motherfuckers at the finish line when I am in my body, didn't diet, eat a well-rounded diet of whatever foods I want, and move my body however I God want. And I'm capable of doing whatever I want.
Yep.
Because that's what I'm missing right now. Is I want to feel that I'm physically capable of doing whatever I want.
You want to be able to say yes to anything that you want to say yes to.
Yes. And that includes, sorry, Allie, I know this is not your jam, but that includes morning hikes to a waterfall.
All right. I just won't go with you.
That's fine. Or we'll find one you could
I
drive
was
to.
gonna say, not the morning, but girl, I'll be there.
Yeah, it's so interesting that, I want to be able to say yes to anything I want to say yes to when that was already a very self-limiting belief. Okay, nobody, now people can advise you to stay away from things, but nobody's can actively keep you from certain things, right? That's what I think is so interesting. It's like, I want to say yes to things, but society's keep me from saying it because they're shaming me for being a certain body size. And it's like, that's a internal issue. That's not an external, like you're saying, that's internal. Now, society can definitely advise you to eat more whole foods, eat healthy, etc. But even if you're thin, guys, I'm holding you to that same standard. Just because you're thin doesn't mean let you off the hook. Everybody should be eating healthier. Or even if you're thin, our society is sick. We're all very, very unhealthy. You want to be able to say yes to all these different things you want to say yes to. And it seems like you're calling that the discipline. The discipline is saying yes. The discipline is indulging. But we also have to be honest about what is going on, because it all sounds good on paper that if you are really struggling with these different things, you can say yes to having a brownie or yes to having an ice cream, etc. We have to remember how big they are. People do not stay that big unless they're actively working to stay that big. Now, once again, I might make an exception if you have a hormonal disorder and so you're feeling hungry on average. That definitely happens, but then you get that hormonal disorder taken care of and you can change your diet and you can still lose weight because you won't feel as hungry. But when she's talking about eating a well-rounded meal, we have to think about how many calories that she's eating. Do we think that she's being honest with what she's telling us that she's eating? Because at her size, remember, I was at her size. I was mid-fat. I was probably her size. I'm not really sure, but I probably was at least around there. In order to maintain your weight, like let's look it up really quick. We'll see how much it took me to maintain my weight. We'll do a calorie calculator for BMI. Calorie calculator. We'll just say my heaviest weight, I was that age. I was 5 feet and 5.5 inches, 347 pounds. Let's look at little to no exercise, not based metabolic rate, look at little to no exercise. To maintain my weight, I would have to eat 2,751 calories per day. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me now based on how many calories I eat now that I'm like overly reducing my calories, but like it doesn't seem like a lot to some people. It seems a lot to me right now, but it does not actually take that much to get to that many calories. Now imagine gaining weight. Like say you want to gain a quarter pound per week. You have to go up to about 3,000 calories per day. Let's think about all the things that you can eat there. You can eat a full-size steak, you can eat some asparagus, you can eat carbs, you can eat all these different things and you maintain your weight at that size. So I really have to wonder, are they making the point sometimes when they're talking about like eating what they want that this is the size they're meant to be and that's how many calories that they need? Because I kind of feel like when it comes to other fat activists where they talk about what they're eating, they're like, well, I'm not eating significantly more, etc. If you're eating processed food, it's very easy to get to that calorie level versus if you just ate more whole foods, you probably would be eating fewer calories because there's less oils, there's less fats like butter, seed oils, etc., that are adding those extra calories that you can't see. Am I making sense when I'm talking about this? Basically what I'm saying is I don't believe people who are saying I need to be this weight for whatever reason, I can't lose weight, because you have to eat all those calories to maintain that weight. Like you're the one who's putting that food into your body. And even if you just like went down to like mild weight loss and you ate 2,500 calories per day, you could lose a half pound per week. It's not that big of a cut, right?
Maybe does for the feeler. But that's the thing is that you need to be in the work that you're doing. You do have to be purposeful about the energy that you let in, right? Yeah. And the people that you surround yourself with. And you need to be surrounded by people who see your finish line and don't assume that it needs to be the same as theirs.
Yes. Yes.
What a great use of that metaphor. Damn, Allie.
I'm hoping that with your help, we can guide the conversation through talking about shame and not this situation, but shame in general and the difference between shame and guilt and how shame shows up. So this week,
I really do wonder if they're going to have the same definition of shame and guilt as I do, because I'm talking about from a cultural context of what shame and guilt actually are. But I mean, they make up a lot of things in general. So I do wonder if they're going to make this up as well. We'll just have to see how they define it. And yeah, I mean, I kind of really wish I knew what her story was. I understand like she has her right to her privacy. I just don't think that maybe was the best story to set the scene because I'm inevitably going to misinterpret what she's talking about. It's just going to happen. I don't actually know what the story is. All I can go off is the bits and pieces that she's given me. It sounds like to me when they're talking about, you know, maybe your finish line isn't the same as everybody else's. It just seems to me that once again, it's one of those things where they're prioritizing mental health over physical health when those two things are, as I always say, intrinsically linked. I don't believe you can have one without the other.
I have found myself struggling with shame, and not the I did something bad, because that would be guilt, but the I am bad. Yes, I am bad, and the
yeah, that actually, in my personal opinion, that is, at least from what you said there, the proper definition. So guilt is I did something bad, and it's because it's internal and you feel bad about it. But shame still is external, and it's like I am bad, but it's because somebody else is telling you bad. So basically, like the example that I can give in Japan, the reason why there is shame culture is that they think if you did something bad, it's because you are a bad person. Now, I'm not saying every single person thinks this way, but that is like a cultural context of living in Japan. I lived there for 6 years. That's how it works. And I honestly think it comes down to language. I really think language influences the way that you think. So here in the United States and in English, we have two different phrases, common sense and common knowledge. Now, if you know that a place closes at 5 p.m., it's because it's common knowledge. It may not be common sense that it closes at that time, right? But common sense might be something, as you know, if you leave money out or your wallet out on a counter, it might get stolen, because common sense would be that if you have people out there, they're going to steal it. That's common sense. In Japan, though, the words common sense and common knowledge have one word. I don't remember what it is right now, but there's one word that means both of those things. So common knowledge is common sense. I 100% believe that's one of the things that contributes to them being a shame culture. And that if you do something bad, it's like you should have known better. It doesn't matter if it's common sense or common knowledge. You should have known better. You're a bad person for doing it. I'm one of those people who, like, I don't have a lot of shame in my life. Like, there's very rare times where I think I'm a bad person. And that's just who I am. It's very difficult to explain to therapists when you first meet them, because they're so used to dealing with people who have a shame issue. And I don't have shame issues. So like we could like skip over that whole part of therapy and just go straight to other stuff. But yeah, so it makes sense why if she's experiencing that, when she's connecting, you're like, well, people made me feel this way. If it's true shame, yeah, somebody did make you feel that way. But sometimes I feel like the shame that they experience is actually a delusional amount of shame, where it's the idea that somebody's making them feel this way, but they're actually not.
Shame. And then what kind of came up from that is the power in which I give other people that allows me to feel that shame. And
yeah, that's exactly what I said. It's the this perception that it's other people causing them the shame.
I truly just pulled myself back from living this week and just isolated. I felt like I wasn't really active in the group chat this week. I felt, I just feel like I've been
quiet.
Yeah, and I will say personally, Billy's been on a fishing trip.
How many fish were there to catch, Billy? Get
right?
Okay.
No, it's so crazy because he said they didn't catch any yesterday. I was like, oh no.
Guess it's time to come home.
No, I felt bad for them, but
like, oh, it sounds like you're not having fun without me.
I did say that a couple of times. I was like, so why are we doing this in like the +1 because I would just came and read my book on the beach. I don't need to fish.
Yeah, I also don't want to go fishing.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty good at catching fish.
Same actually.
On my, I think it was my 9th grade field trip to go fishing.
How would I know?
I was joking and like blowing kisses to the fishes. I was like, here, fishy, fishy. I caught the most fish. Everyone was pissing themselves.
You just catch a Maeve.
I am good at catching Maeve.
Kisses?
No, I have to be stealthy.
Oh.
And pretend like I'm doing something else.
One more time, what do you have to do?
Oh my god.
All right. So the first time I was introduced to the concept of shame, I will literally never forget. I was in treatment at Renfrew, and I was in PHP, and they were like talking about shame, and I, with my whole chest, went, I don't experience shame. And the therapist.
She sounds like me right now when she was when I said, I I don't experience shame. The difference is that like I actually went to therapists and I've had to explain to them and they're like, well, do you ever have these ones? I'm like, no. I'm like, no, I know I did nothing wrong. I know I don't have to feel bad about it for those reasons. And I have all these other issues though because of it and et cetera, but I have zero doubt I did nothing wrong. Right. So I think it's funny. She's like, I don't experience shame. And my whole chest is like, well, maybe in your case, because you have those behaviors, you're used to deluding yourself, but I don't have those behaviors, so I don't do that. Sorry. I'm not trying to judge here. I'm just explaining the difference about why she does and why I don't.
Chris went, oh, you don't? I said, no, I don't think I've ever felt shame.
Why? Why was that your initial
I
reaction?
have no idea. I have no girl, I was unwell. But
She's like, I don't know, I haven't eaten bread in 14 years.
She hasn't eaten bread in 14 years. I wonder if that's actually true. Did she not eat bread for 14 years? Part of me believes it because that's what like happens with those behaviors that Alex has taught me is that you'll say, oh, I'm eating healthy and oh, I'm dieting. Oh, I'm reducing my intake. But really all you're doing is you're cutting out like a whole macro and you're overindulging in the other two because you're like, well, I'm healthy because I'm eating these two things and that's the bad thing. And that's not really how it works. And like I eat bread sometimes. Like I typically only eat I don't like American wheat. I don't trust American wheat. I think glyphosate is a huge issue, causes inflammation. American wheat, also the GMOs, it causes more complex gluten. It's hard to break down, causes more inflammation that way as well. I tend to make my own sourdough from einkorn flour, which is a Italian heirloom flour. It's significantly less complex glutens, so it's easy to digest. Even Alex, I made him a cookie when we were in Austin. It was for Easter, guys. It was Easter, so it was an Easter chocolate chip cookie, and he didn't have a reaction to it because people with gluten sensitivities, like Alex, like that's the kind of flour that you can actually have, and it's not a big issue. So I still have bread. I just make my own bread because I'm not trying to restrict my macros. I'm not cutting out carbs or anything. I'm just trying to eat the healthiest versions of food possible. And guess what, guys? Homemade bread is delicious.
away from carbs. Literally.
Your brain wasn't making all the
Like,
connections.
I don't feel any shame. Ew, no, I can't have pizza.
Oh my god, that's so funny because that's on point.
No.
Like you hit the mark on the head.
I had a slice of pizza around my birthday, and then also while I was in Austin because I will not forgo pizza. Pizza's delicious. I want to make my own pizza. I need to make my own pizza with that einkorn flour, make like a focaccia bread, and then do like a Detroit style pizza. It's definitely on my list of things to do when I hit whatever my next milestone is. And just because like I'm just, obviously calorie counting, bread's a lot of calories. It's not that filling. Yeah, I don't know. I don't believe in like reducing what foods that you eat. The only ones I'll do that is if the ones that I have really bad reactions to.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, I was at Renfrew and I was like, whole chest. I was like, nope, don't know what it is, never felt it. And I do think I didn't understand shame.
Yeah.
Right. I do think there was a place of like not understanding the concept and how it's shown up. And I had a little bit of a full circle moment this week when I was sitting down and I was like, why am I feeling like this?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I have said a lot that I don't think I'm a good person. Right? And I'm like, these are actually all thoughts that have been
Somebody else gave you to carry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, for our listeners, for our visual watchers,
For our audio listeners.
Like and subscribe if you get that joke, because I know you've been here a minute.
we were going to talk about something else today, and I went to the girls and I said, can we please not? Because I am so stuck in this shame spiral right now that all I can focus on is talking about shame and wanting to work through that. And I feel like this is the time to introduce what I talked about at Renfrew when we talked about shame, and also what I talked about in therapy this week with Chelsea. And that is shame shields. Have you guys heard of this?
Okay, we're gonna stop it there. I don't know what a shame shield is, but basically we're quartered away through the video and we're gonna figure that out next time, the next video. And guess what, guys? I've made it through this one, okay? The next 3 videos I'm gonna be filming are the next 3 parts of that podcast, and with my whole new water bottle. Not today, probably in a couple of days. I'm trying to keep ahead of how many videos I'm doing because I'm going on a trip later. I'm gonna be volunteering. I need to have a lot of videos in the bank in order to make sure I have enough time to get those out in the month of June. But yeah, very interesting. That was a really long introduction. There's not a lot to say about it right now, just because, like I said, it's an introduction. They're setting up to talk about what they're going to talk about. All I can say is I'm very interested in hearing what she's learned at this behavior clinic because I don't really trust a lot of behavior clinics, especially ones that will not acknowledge that BING behaviors are a problem. I've had people in my comments talk about too where they've sought help for the BING behaviors and they were basically told that they needed to just keep eating, right? Yeah, and that's not healthy either. It's not healthy to reduce. It's not healthy to overindulge in these toxic ritualistic ways. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see how they're all tied onto societal standards and how people have apparently taken our power away and how we can further deflect personal responsibility. And with that, guys, I hope you have a wonderful week and I will talk to you later. Bye.